There's a certain comfort in believing you've built your life on solid ground. That's how I felt about my marriage to James Mitchell. To the world, he was the brilliant CEO of a Silicon Valley tech empire. To me, he was everything handsome, powerful, and completely devoted. We had been married for 8 years, and I thought I had it all figured out. The sprawling mansion in the Bay Area's most exclusive neighborhood. The endless charity galas where I sparkled in designer gowns. The private jets to exotic locations whenever we needed an escape. But what I had with Ryan was different. Electric. Dangerous. And absolutely worth the risk. I first met Ryan at a fashion show in New York, back when I was still modeling. He was photographing the event, his camera capturing more than just images. Those dark eyes seemed to see right through my carefully constructed facade. We spent that night talking until dawn, sharing secrets and dreams. But timing wasn't on our side. I had already met James by then. Sweet, successful James, who offered me the world on a silver platter. I chose stability over passion, telling myself it was the smart choice. For years, Ryan and I kept in touch secretly. Brief messages. Stolen glances at industry events. The occasional accidental meeting in cities where neither of us lived. Then came the opportunity we had been waiting for. James's company was expanding rapidly, making him busier than ever. He was rarely home, lost in board meetings and product launches. That's when I suggested that my cousin Ryan needed a place to stay. He's going through a tough divorce, I told James over dinner one evening. He needs a fresh start, away from New York. I made my eyes wide and pleading, playing the role of the caring relative. James hesitated, his fork pausing halfway to his mouth. I don't know, Sarah. Our home is our sanctuary. I reached across the table, touching his hand softly. Please, honey. He's family. That word family always worked with James. He was an only child who had lost his parents young. The idea of family meant everything to him. How long would it be for, he asked, already softening. Just until he gets back on his feet, I promised. A few months at most. James sighed, then smiled that trusting smile I had come to rely on. All right, if it means that much to you. I kissed him on the cheek, hiding my triumph. You're the best husband ever. Ryan moved in the following week. I watched from the window as he pulled up in his vintage Porsche. James raised an eyebrow at the expensive car. Thought you said he was struggling? I shrugged casually. It's his one indulgence. You know how photographers are about their image. Ryan stepped out, looking exactly as I had instructed him to. Casual clothes, slightly rumpled. A single duffel bag over his shoulder. The perfect picture of someone down on their luck. Thanks for letting me crash here, James. He said, extending his hand. His grip was firm, challenging. I could see James noticing it, filing it away. But my husband was too polite, too trusting to say anything. I showed Ryan to the guest house, a separate building behind the pool. It's perfect, he whispered, pulling me close once we were alone. You're perfect. His kiss was hungry, desperate. We had waited so long for this. We have to be careful, I warned, reluctantly pulling away. James suspects nothing, but we can't get careless. Ryan's smile was wicked. Don't worry, baby. I know how to play this game. And he did. For the first few weeks, everything went according to plan. Ryan was the perfect house guest. Quiet, respectful, helpful around the property. He even cooked dinner occasionally, impressing James with his culinary skills. "Your cousin's not half bad," James told me one night. "It's nice having him around." If he noticed how I tensed at the word cousin, he didn't show it. During the day, while James was at work, Ryan and I made up for lost time. Secret meetings in the guest house. Quick kisses in the garden. Long swims in the pool that turned into something more. The thrill of almost getting caught only made it more exciting. But we weren't just having an affair. We had bigger plans. Much bigger. I had done my research over the years. James's company was worth billions, but he had never asked me to sign a prenup. His blind trust in me was his biggest weakness. California's community property laws meant I was entitled to half of everything. But Ryan and I wanted more than half. We wanted it all. The plan was simple, but required perfect timing. First, establish Ryan as a permanent fixture in our lives. Then, slowly gather information about James's business dealings. Finally, when the moment was right, strike. The opportunity came sooner than we expected. James was stressed about a major product launch. Working longer hours than ever. Coming home exhausted, barely noticing the changes around him. Like how Ryan and I had stopped pretending to be cousins when he wasn't around. Or how his private office wasn't quite as private as he thought. "Look at this," Ryan said one afternoon, showing me an email he'd found. James had left his laptop open again. The message detailed a potential merger worth billions. "This is exactly what we need." I skimmed the confidential information, my heart racing. "We'll have to move carefully," I said. "One wrong move and we lose everything." Ryan pulled me close, his breath hot against my neck. "Trust me, baby. By the time we're done, James won't know what hit him." We brought in Marcus Hayes, a lawyer known for his flexible ethics. He had helped other women in similar situations. For the right price, of course. "It's all about timing," Hayes explained in his sleek downtown office. "We need James vulnerable, distracted." "Leave that to me," I smiled. The pieces were falling into place. But then something unexpected happened. Something that would change everything. James was driving home late one night after a board meeting. A truck ran a red light. The crash was devastating. I got the call at midnight. "Mrs. Mitchell, there's been an accident." My hands shook as I woke Ryan. We rushed to the hospital, playing our roles perfectly. The concerned wife. The supportive cousin. James had survived, but there was a complication. The trauma caused temporary blindness, the doctor explained. It could last anywhere from 3 to 6 months. I squeezed James's hand, my mind racing with possibilities. "Don't worry, honey. I'll take care of everything." And I meant it. Just not in the way he thought. This was the opportunity we had been waiting for. With James blind and dependent, we could accelerate our plans. Ryan moved from the guest house into the main house. To help take care of things, I explained to James. He nodded gratefully, unaware of our true intentions. The next few weeks were a delicate dance. Playing the devoted wife in front of James. Planning his downfall behind his back. Ryan and I grew bolder, knowing James couldn't see us. Stolen kisses in the kitchen. Whispered conversations right in front of him. The thrill of it was intoxicating. Hayes prepared the documents we would need. Transfer of assets. Power of attorney. Everything required to take control of James's empire. "Are you sure about this?" he asked during one meeting. "Once we start, there's no going back." I looked at Ryan, saw the hunger in his eyes. We're sure. The plan was simple. Get James to sign everything over to me. Then, once we had control, push him out completely. He would never see it coming. Literally. But as we moved forward, something felt off. Little things that didn't quite add up. The way James seemed to know exactly where everything was. How he never bumped into furniture anymore. The slight tilt of his head when Ryan and I were together. Almost as if. No. It was impossible. He was blind. The doctors had confirmed it. We had seen the medical reports ourselves. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were missing something. That James wasn't quite as helpless as he appeared. But it was too late to turn back now. The papers were ready. The trap was set. And in just a few days, everything would change. I looked at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. The woman staring back was beautiful, polished, perfect. Just like the life I had built with James. But underneath, there was something else. Something darker. Something hungry. Ryan came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. Having second thoughts? I leaned back against him, feeling the strength in his body. No. Just thinking about what comes next. His smile was predatory in the mirror. Everything we've ever wanted, baby. And James? He'll never know what hit him. I know. Deaded, pushing down the last traces of doubt. James had given me everything I thought I wanted. But Ryan made me feel alive. And that was worth any price. Even if that price was destroying the man who trusted me most. The game was set. The players were in position. And soon, very soon, we would make our final move. I just hoped we weren't the ones being played. The next morning, I watched James getting ready for his appointment. His movements were too precise for someone who couldn't see. Something nagged at the back of my mind, but I pushed it away. Ready to go, honey? I asked, keeping my voice sweet and concerned. Hayes says these are just routine medical documents. James nodded, adjusting his tie with perfect accuracy. Whatever you think is best, Sarah. Ryan drove us to Hayes's office in downtown San Francisco. The fog hung low over the city, matching my growing unease. Something felt wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. In the elevator, James stood quietly between us. I caught Ryan's eye, saw the excitement there. This was it, the moment we'd been planning for months. Hayes greeted us in his plush corner office. Mr. Mitchell, Mrs. Mitchell, good morning. His voice was professional, betraying nothing of our scheme. And Mr. Collins, thank you for coming to support your cousin. I saw Ryan suppress a smirk at the word cousin. Hayes spread the documents across his mahogany desk. Just some standard paperwork regarding your medical care, Mr. Mitchell. And of course, temporary transfer of business authority while you recover. I held my breath, watching James's face. He sat there, sunglasses hiding his eyes. Where do I sign? Hayes guided his hand to each signature line. Page after page of carefully crafted legal deception. With each signature, my heart beat faster. This was really happening. We were really going to pull this off. The final page, the one that would give me control of everything. James's pen hovered over the line. For a moment, just a moment, I thought I saw him smile. But then it was gone, and his signature flowed across the paper. All done, Hayes announced, gathering the documents. I'll have these filed immediately. Ryan squeezed my hand under the table. We had done it. Everything was ours. The power, the money, the company. All of it. Shall we celebrate? Ryan suggested as we stood. His voice was thick with triumph. I know a great place around the corner. You two go ahead, James said quietly. I'm feeling tired. I'll catch a cab home. I kissed his cheek, tasting victory. Get some rest, honey. We'll see you at home. Ryan and I practically floated out of the building. The fog had lifted, revealing a bright San Francisco day. We did it, baby, Ryan whispered, pulling me close. It's all ours now. We were so caught up in our celebration. So drunk on success. We never saw the black SUV coming. It happened so fast. The screech of tires. The flash of metal. The impact. Then darkness. The last thing I remember was James's voice. Calm. Collected. Speaking to someone I couldn't see. Make sure there are no loose ends. Then nothing. I woke up in darkness. Not the peaceful darkness of sleep, but the cold, final darkness of something else. I tried to move, but my body wouldn't respond. Tried to scream, but no sound came. And somewhere, in that endless void, I heard James laughing. The sound echoed through the emptiness. Mocking. Triumphant. And I realized, too late. We hadn't been playing him. He had been playing us all along. The blind man who saw everything. The trusting husband who trusted nothing. The victim who had become the victor. In the end, our perfect plan, our careful scheme, had been nothing but a trap. And we had walked right into it. The last thought that crossed my fading mind was that James had never been the fool we thought he was. He had simply been waiting, watching, planning. And now, as darkness claimed me completely, I understood the true meaning of blindness. It wasn't about what you couldn't see. It was about what you refused to see. The truth that had been there all along. That some games are lost before they even begin. And some betrayals deserve exactly what they get. The fog rolled back in over San Francisco, covering our fate in its cold, gray embrace. While somewhere above it all, in a mansion on a hill, a man who was never really blind raised a glass to the perfect lie and the perfect truth. That justice, when it comes in its own way, in its own time. And sometimes, it comes with a vengeance. The headlines would call it a tragic accident, a random act of fate. But James and I both knew better. In the end, he had seen everything. Every kiss. Every lie. Every betrayal. And he had waited. Planned. Struck when we least expected it. The perfect revenge. Served cold. Served blind. Served exactly as it should be. And as my consciousness faded into the void, I realized that the real blindness had been our own. Thinking we could outsmart a man who had built an empire on seeing what others missed. The game was over. And we had lost. Completely. Utterly. Finally. The fog continued to roll over the city. Hiding secrets. Burying truths. While in his mansion on the hill, James Mitchell raised another glass. To perfect vision. And perfect revenge. And somewhere in the darkness, I understood at last. that some betrayals cost everything, including your life. The game was over, and the blind man had won. In the days following our accident, the city buzzed with speculation. 2 bodies found in the heart of San Francisco's financial district. A tragic hit and run, the papers called it. But James knew better. I know this because I can still see him, even from this darkness. This void where Ryan and I now exist. I watch as James plays his part perfectly. The grieving husband, the concerned cousin-in-law. His performance is flawless. I'm devastated, he tells the reporters gathered outside our mansion. Sarah was everything to me. His voice breaks at just the right moment. The cameras love it. The public eats it up. Silicon Valley's golden couple, torn apart by tragedy. No one questions why we were at a lawyer's office that day. No one asks about the documents we signed. Hayes keeps his mouth shut, too terrified to speak. He knows what James is capable of now. We all do. From my place in the shadows, I watch James rebuild. He transforms our mansion into a tech incubator. In Sarah's memory, he tells the press. She always wanted to help young entrepreneurs. Another perfect lie. His company's stock soars to new heights. The blind CEO who miraculously recovered. Who survived tragedy and emerged stronger. The public loves a good comeback story. They don't see what I see now. The calculated precision of every move. The cold satisfaction in his eyes. The way he knew, all along. I remember now, moments I should have noticed. The slight tilt of his head when Ryan and I whispered. The way he never truly stumbled, even when blind. How he always seemed to know exactly where we were. The signs were there. We were just too arrogant to see them. Too caught up in our own clever plan. Too blind ourselves. I watch as he visits our graves. Perfect white marble, side by side. Beloved wife, reads one. Cherished family, reads the other. More lies carved in stone. He brings flowers every Sunday. Stands there in his expensive suit. Looking every bit the grieving widower. But I see his lips curl slightly. A ghost of a smile. Victory etched in every line of his face. Months pass. The investigation goes nowhere. The black SUV is never found. The driver never identified. James makes a generous donation to the police department. To help solve cold cases, he says publicly. The irony would make me laugh. If I still could. He sells our story to Hollywood. A tribute to Sarah, he tells the media. The script paints me as the loving wife. Taken too soon by a random act of violence. Ryan barely gets a mention. Just the supportive cousin. There in our time of need. James approves every detail. His final act of revenge. Controlling our narrative even in death. I watch him in board meetings now. More powerful than ever. His eyes sharp. His mind sharper. No one would ever guess that this man orchestrated the perfect murder. In broad daylight. In front of witnesses. Without ever getting his hands dirty. He dates occasionally. Beautiful, accomplished women. But never lets them get too close. Once bitten, twice shy. Or perhaps he just prefers solitude now. The company grows exponentially. New technologies. New acquisitions. Each success another nail in our coffin. Proof that he never needed me. Neve. are needed anyone. Hayes drinks himself into obscurity. His practice crumbles. His reputation in tatters. He jumps at shadows, knowing what James is capable of, knowing he could be next. A year passes. Then, too, the world moves on, forgets about the tragic accident that claimed the lives of Sarah Mitchell and her cousin. But I remain, watching, witnessing, understanding now what I was too blind to see before. That James Mitchell was never the man I thought he was. He was so much more. So much worse. So much better at the game than we ever could be. Sometimes, late at night, when he's alone in his study, he looks out over the city, raises a glass to the empty air, and I swear he knows I'm watching, can feel my presence, my eternal witness to his perfect crime, his perfect revenge. And in those moments, I understand the true meaning of justice. It's not always swift, not always clean. Sometimes it wears expensive suits and carries business cards. Sometimes it pretends to be blind while seeing everything. The fog rolls in over San Francisco, covering secrets old and new. And in his mansion on the hill, James Mitchell continues his empire. Stronger, smarter, more dangerous than ever. While I remain a ghost, a warning, a reminder that some betrayals come with a price, that some games are lost before they begin, and that true blindness is not in the eyes, but in the heart that refuses to see the truth until it's too late. End.